A supercharged V3 from Honda with an electric supercharger? Well, it looks like we have something special brewing up in the Honda factory, and I think they're trying to bring some innovation to the world of motorcycles. Now, Honda submitted a trademark, and with the details of the trademark and a few images that we've seen from the EICMA last year, I think we can feel pretty confident in what we're going to expect and not what we want to expect. Well, to a certain degree. Honda has officially trademarked V3R. And you may wonder, what is V3R? You may have no clue. Well, if you've been watching my channel, you know I've been talking about different types of engines, and we've talked about 3-cylinder engines. And this is another version, which is the V3. So you're gonna have 3 cylinders in this engine. But what makes this innovative and special with Honda is that they're bringing along an electric supercharger. And this isn't a concept that we're gonna say is gonna be 10 or 15 years down the road. This one is coming soon. So Honda revealed last year at the EICMA this somewhat of a half-finished, partially done concept that's fitted with their first ever 4-stroke V3 engine. And I know you might not think this is nothing to become a big hoopla until you realize and understand that they're actually gonna put an electric supercharger on this bike. And that electric supercharger promises to bulk up the performance without the sacrifices associated with the engine-driven blowers or exhaust-powered turbos. And this isn't a bike that you're gonna just see on the track at MotoGP. Honda says that they're gonna bring this one to production because they've trademarked everything associated with the V3R and V3 and R. Both, yeah. And the fact that they added the one detail, the R, at the end of it, that could tell you a little bit more about what type of bike this is gonna be. And what that says to me with having the R on there is that it's gonna be geared towards the sport bike type, or, you know, more than likely it's gonna be like the naked version of a sport bike. Because if you look at BMW, for instance, you have the M1000R, and then you have the M1000RR. Now the M1000RR has the full fairings, full race setup, but the M1000R is a naked version of that. So I'm thinking along the Honda lines, maybe they're gonna be blueprinting it off of something like the CB1000R that Honda already has. Just my opinion. So from the research and the pictures, a lot of people are, you know, pretty much putting their bet that this V3R is going to be essentially a naked bike that's powered with the V3 and an electronic supercharger. Now, if you go to Honda's website and look at the CB1000, or if you have a CB1000R, and you look at it, and then you come back and you look at this concept of a bike that, you know, we got these images from the EICMA last year, you can start to see some similarities. Because we can see that it's already borrowing the front forks, the brakes, as well as the single side swing arm from the CB1000R. So maybe it's gonna be a part of the CB lineup, or maybe they just use this because it gives them a pretty good platform to show off the V3 with the electric supercharger on the side. Who knows? Because there are no handlebars, there are no foot pegs, there are no fairings, no bodywork. So it's like we're out here trying to guess, but a lot of times, you know, history repeats itself. So if you start to look at the smaller things, it can kind of help you get a bigger picture on what's actually to come from Honda. And then, you know, some people have even looked even deeper into it. Myself, I didn't look this far, but I read up. And they even kind of started measuring like the wheelbase and so forth and so on. And it's just a little bit short of the CB1000 wheelbase of 57 inches. So are we looking at something in the realm of the CB1000's power? And speaking of that power, you know, for me, the meat and potatoes of this whole setup is going to be the electric supercharger. And I want to know, what is this thing going to be able to push as far as numbers when it comes to this V3 4-stroke Honda engine that's going to be, you know, essentially it's going to be innovative to the Honda lineup, because I think that this engine is going to go on more bikes within the lineup than just the V3R, so to speak. And from me looking at it, seeing this 75-degree angle V3 dual overhead cam liquid cooled setup, has 2 cylinders facing the front and it has a 3rd cylinder facing the rear. But even knowing that, it still doesn't give me the displacement on what this bike gonna be. So that's still a guessing portion for a lot of us out here. But you do have some people already betting the mortgage on what it's gonna be, based off the actual physical dimensions of this engine and the way it's set up, and the fact that Honda said that this is going to be made for larger displacement engines. So people are thinking somewhere around the 800cc range. Now you add that electric supercharger onto the fact that this could be an 800cc engine, then you're probably going to get numbers well into the 1000cc range, if not more. And I'm betting on more. Now that supercharger, for example, isn't like the supercharger that's on the Kawasaki H2 that spins up to about 130,000 RPM and is linked to the engine speed. This electric supercharger from Honda will be able to build compressor speed and boost independently of the engine RPM. And that's gonna produce a lot of low-end torque without the fear of overspeeding the supercharger when it revs higher. And that's gonna be the advantage over the exhaust-driven turbocharger. Also, the electric supercharger is gonna eliminate a lot of the pipe work that would normally come into a supercharger setup. And at the same time, that's gonna keep the intake gas away from the exhaust heat. Now, some may question, how is this electric supercharger going to affect the overall electronics on this motorcycle? And that's a good question. And me personally, I think they may be looking at the electronics on the bike that they have with the most electronics, and that's the Gold Wing. And that Gold Wing uses a combined starter and alternator. And that integrated starter generator delivers 120 amps of charging power, and it saves weight by using one unit because it uses that to both charge and start the engine. So I would think that would be the most logical way to go with it. So as of now, production on this bike is slated for around 2026. So I'm assuming that we probably could see a more put together concept, if not a final version of the V3R later on this year. So tell me what you think about what Honda has up their sleeve about the electric supercharger that's going to be on their first ever 4-stroke V3 engine. Do you think it's going to work? Do you foresee any problems going along with it? Now, if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that wonderful subscribe button, like, share, and comment. Join the Two Wheel family. We're a positive group of people in the motorcycle community. We just love to have fun, and we support all people no matter what you ride. So, until the next video, it's your main man, Booster Rails, and I'm out of here. Peace.